Sorry, I was having some internet issues getting the session to start. Looks like we might be the small session. How are you, Kim? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while.
Well, I haven't had any problems. See?
Well, we may just be talking to each other. Hey, Allison, how are you? There we go. I got some more people coming.
Good. How are y'all?
Doing good. All right, well, it is 9:35, so we'll go ahead and get started. If more people join, we'll let them join our civic engagement party. So today with me, I have Miss Alta Lockley in Arkansas County and Pia Woods from Jefferson County, and we're going to talk about, or they're mostly going to talk about some civic engagement leadership programs that they do in their counties. And I think we're going to kick off with Miss Alta, and so whenever you're ready, she's going to talk about Congressional Award and how they're doing that where she is.
Yes, I had to shut my door. So Congressional Awards is something that 4-H in Arkansas has partnered with, and it goes right along with 4-H and everything that the kids are doing in 4-H with the volunteer public service, the personal development, physical fitness, and then there's the expedition exploration part of it, which is probably the hardest part to report, but our kids are doing all that. They're being physically active, their personal development is their project work, all of them are doing public service by their community service, so they're doing all that, so why not piggyback and report it for Congressional Awards? It's the highest honor of the United States Congress for civilian youth, and it's kind of odd that you can sign up at 13 and a half years old. I've had people question me about that. Why is this right? And my secretary said in the newsletter, when we put it in the newsletter, is this right, 13 and a half? But yes, that's it. You can sign up at 13 and a half, and then the kids have until their 24th birthday to build on that. So what they do is they turn in their report form, and they work toward the first one is the bronze, and then the silver, and then of course the big one is gold. And this looks really good along with all of their 4-H work. This looks really good on scholarship applications, things like that. I think that one of the meetings I went to, and Martha Ray was there, and one of the ladies from that represents congressional awards was there, and she said, you know, a lot of these interns that are at the United States Capitol, and you know, they have received the congressional award, and that's how they've gotten the connections to be to where they are. It's all judged on an individual basis. It's non-competitive, so that's where the plus comes in. Where the extension agent comes in is we are the validators for what the kids do. We review their record books, and then we help them, just like we do with 4-H record books, we help them in that process. And then Valerie Seafield is the advisor at the state office. Valerie's wonderful. She will look over the record book and make suggestions. We have a 4-H'er here in Arkansas County who has received her bronze award. She's received her silver award, and today we are submitting her record book for her gold award this year. She's a junior in high school. So her goal was to get this all completed, and hopefully she'll receive that gold award, and that's going to be very instrumental when she starts filling out college scholarships and things in the future. So it's on our website. There's all kinds of information there. There's sample record books. There's information. There's a PowerPoint if you want to introduce your 4-H members to it. But that's the Ashley has shared her screen and is showing the page there. Just go on our website and Google, search Congressional Award, and it's all there. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity. If your kids are involved and they're doing record books, why wouldn't they go just that one extra step and apply for congressional awards as well?
Yeah, so here on the website, it's under the youth tab under awards. And there's a listing over here. So Valerie updates this very frequently, anytime she gets new communication from them. So she's got a listing of each of the categories. So the voluntary public service, personal development, physical fitness. And then as Ms. Alta mentioned, the expedition exploration is probably the hardest to get. But I will say right now there, because of COVID-19 and obviously travel for most people is limited, there are virtual options. So if you go all the way down here to the bottom, these last two links are the guidelines for virtual expedition and exploration, and then the writing template. They watch, from what I know, they watch like videos or do like virtual Google tours and that kind of thing, and then they have like essentially a writing assignment that goes along with it.
Right.
Those two links are right here. But also, oh, go ahead, Ms. Alta.
I was just going to say, Valerie's wonderful. The first time when we were working on the bronze record book, we sent it several times for her to review and make suggestions. The silver was a little easier because you just build on the first one. It's not like you completely start over each time you build on it. So, Valerie's wonderful. I think we've only sent her gold one. We sent it one time, and she made just minimal suggestions, and we're good to go, and we'll be submitting that later today. So.
That's perfect. You're submitting it today on the day you're talking about it.
Right.
And like she mentioned, there are examples. There's 2 of each, bronze, silver, and gold, and those are PDFs that you can share with your kids or print off. And then here is how to get involved as well. The link for registering. There is a $25 one-time registration fee, so you don't have to do it for each medal that they apply for. It's just once. And if you, say you register as soon as the kid turns 13 and a half years old, then that's good up until they are 24. So they could register at 13 and a half, not start it till 15. But everything from that registration point counts towards their goal. So once they register any voluntary public service, the personal development, all of that kind of stuff, it counts towards their medal. So does anyone have any questions about Congressional Award or where to find anything?
I would suggest if you have any, questions, Martha Ray was very instrumental in getting this started in Arkansas. She's very knowledgeable about it, and Valerie is the go-to person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Valerie's super passionate about it, and if Valerie's passionate about it, I'm not sure what Dr. Sarter is. She's uber passionate about it.
Right.
She loves Congressional Award and anyone who gets kids involved with it. So it may be a good way to earn some brownie points or something too. All right. Well, if there are no questions or anything, you can always throw them in the chat and we can come back to them at the end as well. I will stop sharing my screen. And up next, we have Miss Pia Woods in Jefferson County, and she's going to talk about her anti-bullying program. I kept calling it a bullying program, which makes it sound like you're teaching people how to be a bully, which is not what we're doing.
Don't feel bad. I did that once before when I was presenting in person at one of our conferences. You say it, you realize, oh, that's not how I meant to say that. Yeah, bullying prevention, anti-bullying program. This is actually something I've been doing several years, and I kind of just add to it. I usually get requests at the beginning of the year. It normally starts with our elementary schools. And then I found that, when like middle school and high school teachers realize that you have some programming available, they're interested in it as well. But I probably, the majority of my classes have been with elementary, like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th graders. And I first really just started out with like a couple of activities. Like I talked about in my session yesterday, if you were in that, it started with the activity itself. And so I started with something called Wrinkled Wanda. And most of you have probably seen something similar that's just done with a sheet of paper, but we wanted to make it a little bit more fun and more interactive for the kids and to be able to use with groups. And so we basically took brown craft paper and we cut out, the outline. It almost looks like a large gingerbread person is what we do. And so we took that into classrooms and we, talked to the kids about bullying, what that feels like, what they can do about it, what they should do, how they should go about reporting it. But we also, wanted them to kind of experience it in the moment. And so what we would have them do, we divide the class into groups and we give each group a Wanda, so to speak. So they'd have their own person and then they'd have markers and they'd have labels. And so the first run through, we had them write down something negative or something mean that somebody had said to them before. They'd write that on their label, they tape it onto Wanda, and then at the end we'd regroup with the whole class and we kind of read some of the comments that they had been told from each one of the Wandas, and then we take them and the teachers, my PAs and I, we wrinkle them all up. And we talk about, how detrimental those words could be to somebody, to them personally, if they were writing something that had truly happened to them, or if they had been the one, delivering those words to others, how harmful those words can be. And so we talked about, how you can't straighten that Wanda out. Once she's been wrinkled and crippled by all of these mean words, it's hard to ever go back to normal again. And so the second time around, we have them do the same process, but we have them write something nice that they're going to say to Wanda. And they put that, stick that on the outline. And we found that was more difficult for them to do. It was harder for the kids to come up with something nice to say than it was for them to come up with something mean. And so, of course, that's not a good thing. And we talk about that process. Okay, why was it difficult? We looked at, when we saw that it really, really was hard for some of the groups to do that, we talk about, okay, what are some nice things that you can say to each other? How can you, pick each other up? And then the teachers would realize that maybe that was something that they need to encourage within their classrooms as well. So that was kind of how, the first year kind of how we approached it. And then I started looking for other resources. And unfortunately, around that time, probably, like I said, I've been doing this maybe the last 10 years or so, it was kind of hard to find something really good that could be, applied and used in a classroom or in club setting. And so on the 4-H Mall, there is this one project that's available. And I'll see if I can hold that up so you can see it. It's a guide to bullying prevention programs. Can't remember how much it costs. It's probably maybe 10, 15 pages. One of the things about it is it talks about bullying and the research behind it, but it also offers a lot of resources, some of which are free. A lot of them are resources available through other extension services, go figure. Some of them are kind of pricey, and some of them, like I said, they're free downloads or things that you can, request and have mailed to you. I've gotten some of those over the years, but it's kind of been one of those processes of just kind of going online and finding valid resources to use. One of the ones that I do like is the Michigan State Extension. They have one called Be Safe. It's safe, affirming, and fair environment. So this is a really big binder. It's got lots of good activities in it. It focuses on exploring bullying, cyberbullying, understanding differences, social intelligence, emotional intelligence. So that's a really good resource, and it is one of the ones that's listed in the guide. One of the things that I find is a lot of the, thanks Ashley for putting those up there for me. A lot of the things that I found, like I said, I used the free ones. So something else that we were given a few years ago, and many of you may remember this, our extension homemakers decided that they wanted to provide some curriculum for us. And so in most of our counties that had active EHC programs, they purchased a curriculum for use by 4-Hers. And it was this one. So it's a set of 2 notebooks. And it's called the Behavioral Health Curriculum for Grades K through 5, the HLC program. There are actually 2 books. There's one that has some other grade levels in it too. It covers life skills, conflict resolution, substance abuse, safety, fitness, a whole variety of things. And in the conflict resolution section, there were several activities that we used and we kind of modified. A lot of times when we find resources, and I don't know if it's just me or what, but I have to adapt them a lot to fit my audience and to make them something that's going to be more exciting to my kids, and to make sure that there aren't any terms or anything that they're not going to understand, or I guess trying to get them more involved in it, more engaging. And so with that curriculum, those 2 books, that's kind of what we had to do. We took what was in there and we kind of extended it a little bit by doing some more research. So the second, third, maybe year in of doing bullying prevention programming, one of the things that I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to get some data on, how many kids, like I said, it became one of those things at the beginning of every year. I was either having a counselor, a teacher, or a principal even calling and saying, hey, can you come and do this? Because, in October, they always have Red Ribbon Week. And in the month of October, they focus on anti-bullying or bullying-free zones. And so what we did was we created a survey. And so we give these kids just a simple survey. It's just a 1 through 5 questions. The first one is, have you ever been bullied? They circle yes or no. And if you answered yes, how often? Where did it happen? If it happened at school, where? Have you ever seen other kids being bullied? What kinds of things have bullies done to you or someone you know? How much of a problem is bullying for you? And on the back of the page, we asked them to list some things that parents, teachers, and other adults can perform to stop bullying. And yes, I'll share all of my resources. We'll get those, either Ashley or I, one of us will get them loaded so everybody can access them. But we were really surprised, and teachers were surprised. Now, of course, we didn't share this information with the other students. We just kind of wanted it for our purposes on the beginning, because it's one of those things, if you're going to be doing programming, especially something that you're going to be doing a lot of, you want to make sure that you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You want to be able to have some data to back it up. And also, the principals especially were interested in, okay, what kinds of things can we do to help prevent this type of behavior? What kind of issues are we really having out there that maybe they weren't even aware of in their schools? And so this was really helpful. My program assistants and I and teachers, we would kind of review the responses. And then at the end, of course, we give them another evaluation to complete after the end of session. So usually when we go in, we don't do just a one shot. Even, oftentimes these bullying prevention programs were done as school enrichments. And so we wouldn't just do the one session, we try to do a minimum of two. If we had more access, we do a longer series of programming. One of the things that we had several years ago, and I'm trying to see if there's a date on this, back when we were doing 4-H after school programming, Erica Barnes Fields, I think that was right before Ashley came on board, we did the bullying prevention focus as one of our trainings for 4-H after school. And we used the stand up and speak out against bullying curriculum. And once again, this is another one that's available, and it's referenced in the bullying prevention program guide that I told you about earlier. So it had a lot of really neat activities in it to do as well. And then of course, a lot of information for you as the leader or the presenter. So there was a student activity book that went along with that curriculum, and there was a leader's guide too. And Ashley, how many years have you been there?
It was 3 in July.
Okay, so this may have been 4 or 5 years ago. I've looked for a date through it in the book.
I still have some of those,
Okay.
that book that you just held up.
This
I
one,
still have some hard copies of it. I would have to look really hard if I have any digital copies left
yeah.
over. Here.
But like I said, it's neat in that it has a student activity book, which of course you can use, to make reproducibles, and then it has the leader's guide as well. One of the things that we did in our county to kind of as a reinforcement is when we were doing programming, I found a company, and I can't even remember who it was, that had these books available. How to handle bullying. And so it's kind of a coloring book. It's got, puzzles in it and all kinds of things, but we could customize it. So on the bottom, you can see it has our Jefferson County 4-H and our motto on there. But these were really neat to send home to parents and let them, we did a letter based on to fit whatever school or setting that we were working out of. So they got to take home their coloring book. We also had bracelets made, those little silicone bracelets. We still have some of those that we use whenever we're doing the programming. But there are all kinds of resources available out there. There are some really good ones if you're trying to focus and do some work with teens. One of the ones that I like is ditchthelabel.org. And when you go on to that one, it has several teaching guides as well. I want to say there are 3. There are teachers' guides, and then there are PowerPoints that can go along with them. Now, you have to understand a lot of this, a lot of the information that you'll find and a lot of the resources I use, I went back and checked the other day. Some of these don't look like they've been updated since like 2018, 2019. But the basic information, what is the bully? What does bullying look like? What can you do to help prevent it? Who should you talk to? All of that information really hasn't changed. One of the things that I like a lot about the Ditch the Label, it gives at the end of each PowerPoint presentation, it gives a website that they can go to if they need further assistance or if they need to talk to someone, kind of like a hotline. And it talks about, that nobody is born with an intent to bully others. It's a behavior which is often used to cope with a traumatic and stressful situation. But like I said, it has several different lessons. One of them is called, What Are You Looking At? One of them is called Behind the Bully. So that's a really good one. And I'll make sure we get the links for that one to you. There's an elementary bullying prevention program that I've used before too. Teachers pay teachers. I mentioned that yesterday in my session. One of the things that I found on it that several of my classroom teachers started using was a positive notes jar. if you've never used Teachers Pay Teachers, of course, they have all kinds of resources. Many of them you have to purchase. They range anywhere, I've seen some that are like $36, but they go all the way down to $1.50 and so forth. And then every month, sometimes weekly, you get freebies. And so this positive notes jar was a freebie. And basically it just had little strips that the teacher could cut out. I did them for them on colored paper, and you fold them up and you put them in a jar. It also comes with a label for the jar. And basically, it kind of reinforces, okay, if you're having a bad day, if you need to pick me up, come to the jar and get a positive note. And so kids really like doing that. Teachers like using it as well. So maybe the teacher's really busy that day, or she wasn't focusing on someone that seemed like they were down and didn't think to give that positive, compliment or that pick me up verbally. The student can go and pull a note out of a jar. So that was a really cute one. Stopbullying.gov is a really good site to go to. It is designed for kids. It has videos and other things that they can use. Brain Pop Junior has some bullying videos, and I know that bullying prevention videos, let me say that. And it's juniorbrainpop.com, and you go to their health, relationships, bullying section. But once again, I'll put all these in, so don't try to, don't have to try to write them all down. But that's a really good one to use, and it's designed for use in classrooms. I know that our youngest daughter is a pre-K teacher, and she uses some of the Brain Pop things herself. And I know that our oldest granddaughter who's doing homeschool, her teacher uses Brain Pop a lot as well. So check that out if you haven't. You may actually find some other things that are useful for your programming. pbskids.org has some information as well. A few years ago, when I was really active in the 4-H military kids program, our Pine Bluff Arsenal here, our club there, they had received a ton of DVDs that were related to this pbskids.org. It's kind of like a comic strip, a cartoon type thing, but they've got some interesting stuff as well. Bullying.org is another site you can go to. I even have, I don't know if any of you have been around 20 plus years, or when Darlene, at that time, Darlene Baker was at the 4-H office. Now Darlene Millard, and she's been retired for quite a while, but I even have a notebook from 1998. It was 4-H in service. It was conflict resolution for teens, and it was called Taming the Tiger. And it has some really good stuff in it too. The only problem with it, and I guess, maybe there's an update, I really haven't looked for it. It had a set of VHS tapes. That's how long ago it was and how old it is. But the program was called Talking with TJ. And I can remember for years and years and years, back when I was a program assistant, we did that program in the schools. And so you would play part of the videotape, and then, the kids would talk about it, because it usually had, each scene probably had someone encountering a bully. And then they discussed that the students would together, and then we start the tape again, and they would talk about, okay, let's look at how we could have helped to prevent this, or what went wrong. So a lot of these curricula have, what do we call them, scenario cards and things that you can do with the kids. And so that's always really good. It's kind of like they're acting it out or role playing it. One of the activities that we've done over the years too is called What's in Your Cup. And so basically, and I haven't used this one probably in about 3 years, but we basically use pony beads. And so the kids are given bags of different colored pony beads. Each color pony bead represents, like, one class may be a disabled person. One may be a blind person. One category may be a Caucasian person. Another one may be someone who's mixed race, or someone who's transgender. But what we do is we go through a listing of, okay, I may say your barber is, or your doctor is, or your next door neighbors are. And so to respond to those, open-ended questions, the students have to pick a bead to put into their cup that represents that person or that category of people. And so at the end, we have them look in their cup and we talk about, okay, what do your beads look like? Do you have, a variety of different colored beads, or all of your beads the same, that sort of thing. And so you can make the categories fit whatever you want them to fit. But it's always interesting to have those conversations. And just doing the bead activity kind of opens up the opportunity to have that conversation, to talk about, okay, why are all my beads the same? What can I do to make sure I expand my horizons and that I'm interacting with people that aren't necessarily just like me? So that's always a good one. I don't think I've ever used it with anyone beyond or below 8th grade. I think I've always done that 8th grade and up. So that's a neat one. And I actually found that one in, I don't even know if they still distribute it or not, but at one time, Arkansas Children's Hospital had a magazine. I don't get it anymore. I think I got it mostly when my kids were little, but I found that activity or that article in their magazine. They always have a section towards the end that is devoted to like newborns, and then early pre-K, and then kindergarten through 5th or whatever. And so it was one of the activities or the articles that they had in a magazine years and years and years ago. But that's always a fun one to do. That's a good one to do if you're working maybe with a volunteer group as well. Especially with all the things, some of the things that we've been talking about over the last few days, the differences that we're beginning to see in a lot of our clubs and our schools with different, youth that, equate to different genders. They're not necessarily male or female, or, we have more mixed race kids in our clubs and in our classrooms. So that would be a good one to also adapt and use with adult volunteers as well. And like I said, it's just kind of a fun way and a very informal way to get that conversation started. And sometimes that conversation I found when I did it in classrooms, it could go on for several days. We would do the activity in the classroom with the teacher as a school enrichment, but the teacher would continue it on and have those talks with her kids. So that's always a good one to do. I want to say 2 years ago, Arkansas Extension started an in-service training, and it's kind of limited to the number of people that are able to participate in it at one time, but it's called Coming Together for Racial Understanding. And so I was in that first group of participants in that training. I want to say there were probably about 25 or 30 of us. It was one that Dr. Laura Hendricks kind of organized, and I want to say they've offered that again. But that was a really good training designed for adults. I haven't used it in total with my 4-Hers yet. My plan was to come back and to utilize it with my teen leaders and hopefully to engage some students from other areas of the county as well. So those of you that aren't familiar with Jefferson County, we have several school districts. Here in Pine Bluff, we have Pine Bluff School District, we have Dollaway School District, we have Watson Chapel School District, and we have a couple of charter schools. And then we have closest to us would be Whitehall School District. All the schools that I just mentioned are predominantly Black. I want to say if I were to go in to do a school enrichment program, I may have 1 or 2 Caucasian students, maybe. Maybe a few mixed students, but mostly predominantly Black. Well, if I go out to Whitehall, I'm going to have predominantly white students. And so my hope was to be able to engage the Whitehall School District students that were junior high and high school with our teen leaders that have been active in 4-H and have them trained to help conduct the program. But once again, COVID. So this is one that I haven't used personally yet, but we got a lot of really good resources from that. And I do know that our FCS agent did one of her leader trainings this year. She utilized a section from this Coming Together for Racial Understanding. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one that all of you had access to as FCS agents. It's listed in the box folder, if I'm not mistaken, where those leader training guides are. Well, it was really interesting. So the way she announces her leader training is she includes it, writes, a little quip about it in her newsletter. Well, no sooner than that newsletter went out, a lot of people started calling. So one letter went out about the information related to that leader training. That went to the club presidents, okay? And so the other set of EHC members, they were just getting the general newsletter. Well, one of them wanted to know why her friend got something about a class on race and that she didn't think that was something that Extension needed to be delving into. Well, we got a few more phone calls, along those same lines. So that in itself lets us know that it's something that definitely needs to be discussed, even though it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And as Chad was talking about, with the mask thing and people not wanting to participate, sometimes you have to just be okay with that. It's okay if you don't want to engage in this. It's okay if we lose a couple of people, but we have to understand that in our society and the things that we have going on today, it's important that the conversations are, we have those conversations and they are going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but that's okay, but they have to be done. And I think, given the things that we've seen on the national level here recently, the bullying prevention is still definitely needed, but even so, the talking about diversity and inclusion and all of the things that go along with that, and the prevention, hopefully, of future things like we all saw, like on January 6th and other things that have happened since then and probably will continue to happen. There are conversations that we need to have. So even though my focus was bullying prevention today, there's so many directions that you can take that. You can start with the basics of, what does a bully look like? But those conversations that start with that can transcend to so much more, especially when you're dealing with your older kids. And then, of course, when you're talking about your teen leaders, you try to take the things that you've been talking about on those lines and try to, okay, how can we use what we've learned and the skills that we've acquired to become more civically engaged? And a lot of times it has to be something that those young people can really, really relate to. One of the reasons that, you saw so many people this past summer getting engaged in protests and that sort of thing is because they have a different mindset than some of us that are older. They realize the importance of having these conversations and standing up for what's right. And so as 4-H educators, we have, the important task of making sure that they have those skills, that they're able to engage positively in the conversations. And so starting with the bullying prevention, like I said, that's a way that you can kind of get to that point. Okay, I've learned what a bully is. I've learned how to not be a bully. I've learned how to, help prevent it. I've learned how to report it, and then take that to the next level. How can I take these skills and how can I use it to become more civically engaged? How can I help to talk to my legislators, my city council? How can I make sure that my school is a safe place for everyone, even if that one person is different from all the rest of us? So anyway. Ashley, I think I'm sure I rambled quite a bit, but like I said,
you did great.
A list of resources and I'll get those to you so that you can share them with everyone.
Perfect. I tried to go for as many as I could as you were talking, so the chat has some, but we'll get a full list and put it into all of those resources. Does anyone have any questions for Pia? She kind of covered the whole thing, so she did great. All right. Well, does anyone have any questions about civic engagement programs or leadership programs in general, or have anything that you would like to share that maybe you do in your county that's more grab and go style? This is your space to discuss and kind of share ideas.
Let me add one other thing, and it's really out of our 4-H citizenship curriculum that we were given a few years ago. I want to say the name of the activity is Who in the World, I think. And so it's really good to use that one. I really like it. You take pictures. What I did was I took pictures, just found them online of our local politicians and those on the state level and a few very prominent on the national level as well. And so you put the pictures up on the wall and you number them and you have the kids go around the room to see how many they can identify. And then that gives you the opportunity to talk about the important, dignitaries, legislators, county officials, city officials. And it amazes me each time I do that, how many, and you normally do it with teens, how many of them can't identify everyone, even on the county level or the city level. So that's always a really neat one to do. It can even be done with elementary kids. I did it once with pictures of the people at their school, like who's the janitor, who is the librarian, and that sort of thing. So, but I want to say the name of it is Who in the World, and it's in the citizenship curriculum that we have.
Is that in the Government is Us curriculum, Pia, that you're?
Well, I don't know. I'm looking at my bookshelf, and it's a red, white, and blue spine. and it says Arkansas 4-H citizenship. I think it is government. Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah, I can't, the government as us had lots of things in there that was similar to what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
that's why I was asking.
Yeah, but that one's a really, really neat one to do for civic engagement as well. It's a good one to do if you're getting ready to take a group of teens to a city council meeting or to a quorum court meeting beforehand, so they kind of recognize people. And if you can get, I know sometimes with our quorum court, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly who's on which committee, but if you could get that too, especially if they're going to be able to interact with the quorum court members, that way they kind of have, some background information about them. But that's a really neat activity to do. And you could not only just do it with the civic leaders, but you could, do it as a history lesson if you wanted to, with some other key figures, as long as you can find the pictures of them.
Great, thanks, Pia. Anybody else have questions or resources to share? If not, we are coming up on 10:15, and I think based on the schedule, there's a 15-minute break before the next set of breakout sessions. They start at 10:30. So if you have questions, or for me or for anybody else, hang around. If not, you are free to go. And we'll make sure to get all those resources compiled together and to Lori so that she can send them out.
Thanks, Pia. That was great. That's going to be really helpful.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Hey, Ashley,
Yes, ma'am.
if you, on that resource page,
Mhm.
also I just completed the courses, at our courses UAEX,
Mhm.
where it's the best care after school time.
Mhm.
And activity 2 has that civics section,
Mhm.
and it was on the ballot issues and stuff. And I am so sad that I missed that when we were having all that, but I'm going to be using it. It was really worth taking the time to run through that.
So I wrote that in coordination with Kristen Higgins. The two of us worked together on those 2 lessons, and they are really, really good.
Well, be sure and include that, because
Okay.
that was,
Yeah.
I mean, again, leaders can use that one, or, volunteers, whatever, anybody can use that. And I'm definitely planning on using it, for 2022, when we have the next set of ballot issues going and stuff. So it was worth it. It was worth my time. Y'all did good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Pia and Miss Alta, for presenting today.
Thanks for having us, Ashley.
No problem.
Thanks, Ashley.
Anytime. All right. If no one else has questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this so we all get our break. Everyone needs to walk around, take a bit of fresh air or something, and then make sure you pick another session at 10:30. Okay. Bye, y'all.